Okay. All right, we're gonna hit start. Counter again. Right, here's my bets.
Sorry, all bets are closed.
All bets are closed.
There's a 10.
All
There's
right.
a 7. There's a 20.
Ooh, 20. We're gonna stay right
10.
here. And thank you guys for staying with
Would you like a
us.
card?
We're hanging out on this Monday show with my
There's an
good
11.
friend Buck over here,
Card for
chilling
you.
out like a villain. We are continuing our conversation. We've had a couple of conversations. We've talked a lot about movies and just kind of hung out with you guys.
Bust, I'm afraid. Would you like a card?
Some films back in the day that, you know, might not play out so well today. We've talked about Spider-Man, and now today we're kind of talking about movies that deal with race and racism in a more positive spin. Meaning that they kind of poke a little bit of fun. Not that there's anything fun about racism.
Place your bets,
Not that there's
folks.
anything hilarious about racism. But as Buck was saying in the first part of this video, I feel like if you can't accept some jabs and kind of like play with your own stereotypes,
There's a 10.
you know, you're kind of losing something. You know, that's kind of where some of the comedy is, and you know, being able to laugh at yourself. You know, if you're overweight,
Card for you.
you know, being able to joke around and being, yeah, I'm overweight and have some fun with it. If you're too skinny, you know, being able to have fun with it.
Would you like a card?
And so we're kind of hanging out today, talking about movies that we really love from our childhood that
Please
kind
make
of,
your move.
you know, fall into that
There's a
whole
16.
wheelhouse, whether it
Card
be
for you.
like Blazing Saddles or anything else from Mel Brooks, like Spaceballs. Young Frankenstein have anything like that? Do we talk about that one? I don't know if that really has anything.
I don't think so. Maybe that just plays more on like people
I
with
think that's just the
disabilities.
classics
An 18.
and
Another?
oh my gosh.
Please make your move.
Yeah, I think it's more just like on the classic black and white kind of goofy movies or whatever.
7.
But yeah,
Robin
Buck
Hood
and I,
Men in Tights.
yeah, that one we did talk a little about. We didn't really go a whole lot into Men in Tights, but you did mention there. I think there was some stuff
Bets, please.
in that one as well. But again, like I said, Mel Brooks was, you know, say infamous for playing the race
yeah.
card.
An 18. A 7.
And that's true, and that's what he did in Men in Tights. He
There's a
was,
10.
you know, the rabbi, we've got the wine, though.
Would you like a
Oh
card?
yeah.
This is sacramental wine. Oh, and he whipped out the circumcision scene.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying too. Like, you know, Mel Brooks being, you know, a Jewish
It's your move.
filmmaker, I kind of feel like he quite often go for it. 17. Give me a 4. Give me a 4.
13. There's a 14. An 18.
Give me a 4. Oh man, but I kind of feel like he kind of dealt with a lot of like stereotypes and you
All
know.
right, that's it.
I feel like that the biggest one, if it's, you know, you're Jewish, you're a penny pincher, and you're cheap, and all this kind of stuff, and making movies, I could only imagine some of the conversations between him and other
All
producers.
bets are closed.
And he's like, as a movie maker, probably looking just to cut costs on this, that, or the other. Can you imagine trying to cut costs on something, being a Jewish filmmaker?
There's a 10.
Right away, they're going to come after you. You know, they're going to bust your balls right away. Oh, this guy. Even if they're not going to do it to your face,
Would you like a card?
you know, those conversations are going to pop up as soon as you hang the phone up. You know, oh, Mel
yeah.
Brooks, this Jewish filmmaker doesn't want to spend the so and so for whatever.
Oh, he's pinching his pennies.
Card for you.
So yeah, I feel like he was able to play with it so well because he was, man, I'm going to stand 20. He was on the receiving end of it, and
15.
even I think it was at oh gosh, here we really didn't talk about this a lot. You know, we talked about the show The Rock and Boondock Saints and a lot of other things. SNL back in the 80s and 70s. Oh man,
Place your bets, folks.
Oh man,
I don't think they gave an F word about race. Remember, you got Eddie Murphy doing Whiteface.
yeah.
and they were constantly picking at, was it Mr. Robinson's neighborhood?
A 10.
Um, yeah, so they really didn't give
Jack for you.
a shit. And again, I feel like that's just part of like kind of some of the stuff I was talking about before, like when you work um, in an environment where you have a lot of different races and different backgrounds, you have conversations and you have things going on that are uh, a bit more raw than some of your typical conversations. You know, like if you're all like a bunch of white middle class guys in suits selling stocks, I don't think you're going to have a whole lot of conversations about you know some of the stuff that even we're talking about now.
You're not going to be able to make a joke about your grandma's cooking, or
Yeah, so it's not there, and if it is there, it's going to be probably really bad
All bets are
taste,
closed. Let's
to be honest. Um, but yeah, you know, like I said, working with Willie and working with Adrian, and I'm just throwing out some names.
Would you like a card?
There was a lot of
21 on the table.
um,
Card for you.
like different Russian guys like who would like come in and like do the floors, and we would sit down and have conversations with these guys. And like I said, it's just you. I feel like the more you surround yourself with different, you know, people, different cultures and backgrounds and races, like I said, you just have these conversations, and I feel like again, like you're setting, you know, you're sitting around the set of SNL, and you know you got, you know, black and white, but then you've also got like an Italian background, and you know, people from here, people from there. I can't imagine what some of these conversations must have been like, hanging around the writing rooms of SNL,
There's a 10.
even today, but especially back in like the 70s and 80s. Oh gosh, Trading Places. Speaking of the SNL guys, Trading Places, Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy. You got Dan Aykroyd doing blackface with the Jamaican character, and I feel like that's just something that kind of poured out of that whole, again, the
Would you
culture
like a card?
of SNL. You got Eddie Murphy doing whiteface, you got Dan Aykroyd doing blackface, and nobody
Please make your move.
got upset. Robert Downey Jr. did blackface for, was it Tropic Thunder? Yeah, and like was
12.
like great. I mean, like one moment he's Iron Man. He can do no wrong. He's on top of the world. The comeback king, if you will.
Place your bets, folks.
Then he does this movie, Tropic Thunder, and he was all over like Inside Edition and this show and that show, doing blackface and being ridiculed for it, and like I said, dragged across the coals. But you watch it, and it's I think honestly, his role in that movie, I think, is one of the funniest performances I've ever seen.
Card for you.
There's a line in the movie where they're not even like filming anymore, so they're trying to get him to drop character, and they're like, all right, you can stop now, and he goes, I don't drop character until I do the DVD commentary. They have all of the main Ben Stiller,
16.
Jack Black,
21 on the table.
Robert Downey Jr., and I want to say there's one more actor who comes back for the commentary, and he comes back with the voice. Robert Downey Jr., he does the commentary and the voice, and then there's that arc in the movie where he goes from doing the Australian character thing, you know, and he switches from the black voice to the Australian voice in the commentary, and it's this it's a whole arc, and I'm getting goosebumps now just thinking about it and just talking about it, because you have to look at that. He took on a project, he got ridiculed for it, he came back, did the blackface voice for the DVD, but then came full circle and did all the voices for the commentary, and then came back as himself for the very last few minutes of it.
Nice.
He got completely lost in it. Completely. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful, but like I said, he got completely ridiculed for it, and I don't
He
think...
did a bunch of additional like behind the
A
scenes
15.
stuff with that character, and like he went to like
was-
a
I'm
family's
sure.
house and shit, like a whole
Yeah.
like
dude, I'm sure he went out in public. He had to have. I think I remember that. I think he did. I think he was like testing it or something. Like
All right, that's
he
it.
would go out like maybe stores or I can't remember. But yeah, no, I remember like yeah that
All bets are closed.
that
Let's begin.
he doesn't even because he doesn't even look like Robert Downey Jr. for
No.
one.
A 6.
Doesn't sound like Robert Downey
A
Jr.
13.
And again, I don't feel like he's playing it like degradingly. Like he's playing it
Yeah, he's
like
not
a
playing.
solid black act. I mean, it's so
Right.
beautiful. It's one of those things where like you can get mad at me on this if you're listening or whatever. Like, oh, that's fucked up. I hate that role or whatever. I love it. I absolutely love it. I love it just as much as when, like I said, Eddie Murphy decides he's going to put on white makeup and go around shopping for the day, and he gets a free newspaper because he's white. And as soon as the
Same thing
black
when,
guy gets off the
what's
bus, there's a
this-
party.
what's this-
White
the
chicks
It's
with the
your move.
Waynes, they did a whole great thing with like they're singing in the car. It's just, yeah.
Everything Dave Chappelle, all Dave Chappelle stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
He
Yeah,
does whiteface, and it's
There's
amazing.
A bust.
it's absolutely amazing.
There's a 17.
All the race
Win goes to the dealer.
war or whatever.
Right. It was the black guy's
Race
blind.
playoffs.
He's in the KKK or
your bets,
whatever. Oh man, it's so ridiculous. But and I feel like we're not. There's something maybe this is where this is kind of going. This whole conversation, and maybe this is what people can take away
Sorry, all bets are closed.
from all of this. I know it's
There's a
Monday.
2.
You guys have probably had a crazy weekend. Actually, it's not Monday. This is Friday night.
4.
Spoiler.
Little spoiler there, a little trick for you guys.
Would you like a card?
So we hope you guys have had a good weekend. We hope you've had a relaxing weekend. We hope everything is going good. And we know this is like a hard subject coming at you first thing on Monday and talking about all this. I'm like, man, like typically Rob, dude, you're just like hanging out and playing Fortnite and stuff, man. What's
That's
up
how you
with
break
that?
down the walls, man. You got to talk about it.
Exactly, and that's exactly where I was going to go because I feel like it's one of those things you're not going to get rid of it. Like my sister really is like I think I don't want to say idealistic, but she wants to get rid of like racism and all these things, and like I would too. I would love to get rid of it, but there's that yin, there's the yang, there's the back, the forth, the opposites, the polar, the negative, the positive, all of that. I just don't feel like you're ever going to actually get rid of racism. Like I just don't think it's going to happen. I would love
An
to,
11.
but I don't think it's going to happen. I think the only way we can move forward is by addressing it, poking fun at it, making, notice of that elephant in the room, if you will. Like I said, I think that's one of those things of going back and talking about why the movies are so funny and so successful, and like why that line where he's like, I ain't found shit, and he's got the giant pick and he's pushing it through the desert and Spaceballs, is because, like,
All right, that's it.
it's something so I don't want to say like really wrong, but like okay, yeah,
Well,
you know
it's
it's not
wrong,
right,
too.
but it's
I-
it's funny
people
because
like that.
exactly, and it's like you can see that situation where you've been in line with somebody and you're talking and you're hanging out and all of a sudden he's like, man, I ain't see shit, or I ain't do shit, or I ain't whatever. And it's funny, you're having coffee at work and there's that guy who took the last pot of, man, I ain't take shit. And
Yeah.
it's relatable. That's what I'm looking for. It might be a little wrong, it might be a little off center, but it's so relatable. Like you said, we know people like that. We've run into people like that. We've had those situations. And so you throw that, I'm just like throwing cards down. I'm not even like paying, I'm into this conversation. So you see
I
that
just been
shit.
betting $5,000 every time.
So you see that shit. I'm just, I don't know, you're betting that much? Oh, well, let me up the stakes here. So you see that, and it's funny, but like I said, you've seen it. It's relatable, and like yeah, like that's what you have a movie about Star Wars,
Chips down.
and you're trying to find the one and the Force and the da 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 and this and that, and all of a sudden you throw that in there. Like it'd be like the same thing if you're watching the Return of the Jedi, and in the middle of the Return of the Jedi, instead of like somebody being like, oh, I got a bad feeling about this, they pan to a black character and just like, man, this shit is fucked up. And it's like, it's not quite right, it's not quite
Please make your move.
politically correct perhaps, but it's so actual and so factual.
It's your move.
you know, like you said, working with different types of people, and I've done some traveling, and I've
There's a
experienced
17.
so many different types of cultures. I haven't left the country, which I'd love to do, but I've worked with, you know, a bunch of. I lived with a non-English speaking
Next, please.
Buddhist lady. We didn't
Oh,
interact
wow.
very much. Yeah, it was really cool though. We shared our house. It was awesome.
I bet that was
But
interesting, yeah.
there was a lot of like.
Bets are closed. A 10.
I don't think people realize that we have more similarities than
12.
differences.
Oh, dude,
There's a
100%. So again, like going back to the grocery store thing, like working overnight, like I said, a lot of Spanish, a lot of black and white, all working together. We worked with an Egyptian dude, and I remember I actually kind of got. This is a funny story. I'll jump into the Egyptian guy in a minute. This is actually a really cute story.
Too much.
But like we didn't. There was no like
Please make your move.
adversity to anybody working there. Like there was just so many different backgrounds, so many different people that I came in contact with. And at one point,
Another?
we used to do the floors at the grocery store ourselves, but at some point they started like doing the service
An 18.
through another company. And a lot of times it would be somebody who was probably Hispanic, a lot of Middle Eastern, Mexican,
All right,
and then
that's-
Russian employees. Like, and it would rotate a lot because they would have
All bets are closed. Let's begin.
multiple grocery stores, and
There's
so
a 10.
you know this guy might have this store for a little while, and then he's doing this store, and then somebody else. So it was like a big
13.
rotation. And I got to know these people. They would come in, they would
Would you like a card?
hang out for a month or so, and then they'd go to another store. They would come back a lot of times. And there was a Russian couple that worked there, and I love them. I love them to death. And we talked about like just TV shows and different things because like that's kind of how they were learning English, like Seinfeld, you know? Like that's how they were learning English was like through Seinfeld.
Nice.
And we were able to communicate. Simpsons. They love, you know, Simpsons is huge in other countries. So like we could converse through Simpson lines.
Place your bets,
And
folks.
you know, and I feel like that's one of those things like, you know, you can't live a day in the life of an American without something coming up where you
There's a
can't
7.
relate it to an episode of The Simpsons.
There's a
But
12.
yeah, it was just like really, really cool.
14.
And like you said, we had a lot more in common than we did differences. And I remember like my boss, who was
There's a
kind of like a
14.
good old boy, kind of set in that old school make America great again mentality, if you will,
There's a
who would be
13.
like, Robert, why do all these guys like you? Why does this
There's a
guy,
16.
all the floor guys are always talking to you. They're always so nice to you. You know why? Because I talk to them.
Yeah.
I'm nice to them. I try
them
to
like
learn the
fucking
language.
people.
Yeah. Yeah, I would try to learn the language. Like when the Spanish guys would come in, of course it's hola, it's pretty easy. ¿Cómo está? Bien, muy bien. Ah, y tú, blah, 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 blah. But I can't remember any of it now because it was all kind of like just based on just being in the moment. But I would try to learn Russian
There's a
greetings and like, how are you doing? And da 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 da. And like, you know,
There's an
get all of that down so when I opened the door for them, it wasn't just, hey, hello. Because they know hey, hello.
Would you like
But
a
how about I
card?
greet them in their own language? And that was that back and forth
There's
that
11. Card for you.
we had that a lot of the other guys didn't have. But again, I think you have to be open to it. You have to kind of like promote it yourself, you know, like if you really, you know, put yourself out there and like allow yourself to be open, you get a lot more feedback, like I said. And I don't think a lot of my bosses and fellow employers were like
Bets are closed.
as open to the dialogue and
And a
all that
3.
kind of stuff.
A 19.
It's tricky, man.
There's a 13.
It is tricky, but like I said, I think like you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like I think you have to have like a little bit of a
Card for
open
you.
dialogue and
I think you just need exposure.
just a little bit,
Think
yeah,
people-
just kind of expose yourself a little bit more, yeah.
Grow up in their circles, in their whole life they hear, you know,
21
well,
on the
this
table.
type of blah blah is this, blah.
18.
Right.
But they never, you know, experience it.
Yeah. absolutely.
That Chinese lady, she was great, man. She made us food. We made
I
her
was gonna say,
food.
I was gonna ask about like the food. Was like again, like that goes back to I think the first part of the video. It's like you get this stereotype where it's like, oh, you're Asian or Spanish, you can cook. Was the food amazing?
Amazing. So here's the thing. She had like an old school setup in the backyard. She didn't even use the kitchen.
Chips, please.
She
Oh,
had a
no
whole
way!
thing.
Like fire pit?
Yeah, old traditional shit in the backyard. She didn't use the kitchen. She stored in the oven. She stored old newspapers and wash rags.
Have 16.
She didn't use the oven at all. It was full of shit.
That's insane.
And she had like a whole setup in the back. She made these rice balls. It was fucking amazing. But she also, I think she picked up on like,
That'll be a bust. Would you like
because it was
a car?
us. It was a bunch of kids. It was like 12 of us.
Please make your move.
And
There's a
look,
bust.
so we didn't interact too much. We would say, "Hey, good morning," and all this stuff.
Forward. And the
But
dealer
one of the guys, I think she picked up on was kind of a dweeb. Like he's, schmuck kind of guy. Nobody kind of liked him. He wasn't a bad dude. He was just kind of meh.
bets, please.
So
Right.
he was doing something with the stove one day.
Sorry, all bets.
She doesn't cook with the stove, but she knows the stove.
A 4.
And she told him to she didn't speak English. She was pointing at this one burner. And he was like, "Oh, use that burner?" She's like, "Yeah, use that burner."
10.
And he
No,
wouldn't put the pan on it.
no, don't use
And
that burner.
No, it shocked him. Something with connecting the pan to the burner. She lit up, man. She cracked up, laughed her ass off, and then went back into her room. It was amazing.
It's your move.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, but she set him up.
A 13.
Yeah,
She
it was
set
so
him
good.
up.
Please make your move.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
don't know what she's doing nowadays, but I wouldn't have had that experience if I
It's your
hadn't
move.
put myself out there and tried to see how other people live.
There you go. Yeah,
Don't be racist. That's it. That's my Monday message.
there you go. Don't be racist. Yeah, no, I used to
Card for you.
work with this guy who was Egyptian. He didn't speak very good
There's a
English,
19. Another?
but
Bust, I'm afraid.
oh dang it, busted. He was a nice guy,
An 18. Win goes to
and I am very blunt, no matter who you are. And so they would a lot of times stick new people with me because I would kind of explain the job. I wouldn't necessarily sugarcoat a whole lot of things, like this is what we want, this is what we do, blah blah blah.
all bets are closed. Let's begin.
And not to brag, but it was like
There's an 8.
if you can work a couple of nights with Rob and not quit,
A 20.
you'll probably be able to be okay in the job. Because
There's a 10.
I could be a little. But that's how they train me. You know.
Would you like a card?
I'm gonna break up a little bit here. 1 second.
Card
So there was this Egyptian guy who worked with us. Actually, his name was like Adele, like the singer.
Yeah, nice.
And I remember he got upset one night because we were talking about Batman and Robin, me and these other two guys,
An 18.
and they were calling Robin gay. And I'm like, Robin's not gay. I'm like, Robin is too gay. I'm like, he's not gay. I'm like, you're gay. Whatever.
Nice.
Hey, and for the fact,
Place your bets, folks.
Robin's not gay. I don't care what he wears. Gay means
Sorry, all
you've
bets
had
are closed.
intercourse with a male
There's a 2.
or a female if you're a female, I guess, the same sex, whatever. Robin never did that. Okay, he might wear tight undies when he fights crime, but that's simply like distraction method. Anyway, so we're having this big argument back and forth. Robin's gay. Robin's not gay. You're gay.
Have
Whatever.
16.
Poor Adele thinks I'm calling him gay.
Oh no.
Another?
Yeah. Dude, no. So he gets upset because, again, I could be a little blunt from time to time and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I'm
Well,
never going to
being
be
gay
like,
is also a big deal in their culture. I think.
A 19.
Right.
I think.
So, no, totally. You're
That
probably
might be
right.
racist.
You're right. It's probably like a whole different thing. So he got really upset and it turned into this whole thing. And, we actually had to go back in the back and it was me. The one manager I was talking about is kind of like more of a Trump ideals kind of a thing. The assistant manager and the third manager, and we're all back there hanging out, and Adele's like, he's calling me gay, and they're all laughing, they're cracking up just because of the accent and everything. And again, you probably shouldn't laugh, but it's one of those things Mel Brooks would put in a movie, and it was freaking hilarious. All right, it's R4 telling us we got to wrap this piece up. So we're in there, we're doing the whole thing and blah 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 blah, and at one point, he thinks that I'm calling him gay because he's Egyptian.
There's a 16.
Like, that's where it all comes down to. Like, he's picking on me because I'm
Card for
different.
you.
And I had to explain to him right then and there, dude, I treat everybody the same. I don't care if you're white. I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're Egyptian. I treat you all like you're no, nothing, stupid fucking Americans. You know, I put them all down right there. You know, it's a joke, and that's a joke right there too. People don't get upset at that. But that's, I mean, that's how. Like, if I don't care who you are, I don't care what your background is. If you're being an idiot, I'm gonna treat you like an idiot. If you're a nice guy, I'm gonna treat you like a nice guy, and that's where it all, I think, rises and falls right there. So yeah, like I said, man, don't be racist. Don't, you know, don't treat somebody just based on who they are and what they look like. Like you said, you made some great relationships. You learned some cool things living with this lady. I myself, you know, allowing myself to kind of like, you know, Richmond, Virginia, man, such a cool place to kind of grow up with a lot of different
So
cultures.
diverse.
Yeah, very diverse place. So I think, you know, very lucky
Blackjack.
in that aspect that I had a lot of different
7. Card for you.
cultural backgrounds with friends and family and just different things like that. So yeah, I think we were pretty lucky in that aspect. But yeah, man, don't going forward today, man, going forward this week, yeah, maybe that should be like your mandatory Monday. Maybe do something that, you know, is a little bit outside your box that you typically wouldn't do.
Yeah. Check out another culture. If you're afraid of a certain kind of food, go try that food. Why not?
There you go. There you go. Who knows?
Go
It might be
listen
your
to their
favorite.
music.
It might be your favorite. Yeah, totally. Yeah, download some crazy
An 11.
Swahili music. You'll love it. You'll be like, you get one song, it'll be like 45 minutes before you get the drum solo. It'll be amazing. Well, guys, thank you so much. Speaking of amazing, this has been an amazing show. Always great to hang out with you, Buck, and talk about stuff
Oh, yeah.
and just kind of kick it, man.
Always a pleasure, man.
Totally. Well, guys, if you want more, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You know, make sure you like the video. Make sure you comment down below. Let us know how we're doing, because if you don't let us know, then we
A 20.
don't know.
3. Would you like a card?
So, as always, this isn't goodbye. It's simply to be continued. And until next time,
There's a 7.
don't spend that quarter anywhere else. Thank you so much for hanging out, guys.
Best to leave while you're ahead.
Exactly. Leave while I'm ahead. Anything you want to say before we head out?
Yeah, don't be racist.
Don't be
Leave a
racist.
comment. What's your favorite, you know, anti-racist movie?
What's your favorite Mel Brooks movie?
Yeah.
Do any of you guys know Mel Brooks? There you go. Another mandatory Monday. Don't be racist. Go try some different food. Watch some Mel Brooks movies. There you go.
Expand your horizons. That's all I can say.
Awesome. There you go, guys. All right, till next time, man. See y'all later.
Adios.
Peace out.